Good evening once again, and welcome to the Monday Review Show. We're live on Facebook, we're live on Twitter, and we're also live on YouTube. If you'd like to make any comments to the show, please do so. On the bottom right-hand side of your screen, there should be a little thing you pull across there, and you can make your comment. But please, as always, be courteous and respectful of not only the show but my guest as well. We have lots to talk about tonight, and I'm sure you're all talking about it. Certainly, it's all over Facebook, that's for sure. And we're going to tease it out. And it's the incident with Jurgen Klopp approaching the fourth official and then going off and pulling his hamstring. So my guest, as usual, from the UK is Keith Hackett, former Premier League referee, former FIFA referee, and former head of the PGMOL. PGMOL are the guys who effectively appoint and look after the referees in the English Premier League, among others. Keith, welcome to the show, and thank you very much again for joining us.
Thanks for the invite.
We can't, I suppose, I didn't have this top of my list. I had a few other things on my list, but we'll get to them. So we might as well get straight to the point and deal with the issue of Jurgen Klopp and his behaviour in Liverpool's game against Tottenham Hotspur. Now, to look at him under normal circumstances, if that's the right word, he seems very friendly and he hugs the players and he's always just short of kissing them. And then next minute he can really lose his cool, not only with the players on the field, but with the match officials. So I'd like to deal with his performance, inverted commas, the other night or the other day, Sunday, where he ran at the fourth official. Who was it? John Brooks? Who was it?
Yes, John Brooks.
Ran at him and really, literally verbally attacked him, screaming and shouting at him, for which he finally got booked. And as you rightly say, and I 100% agree with you, he should have got a red card for that kind of behaviour.
Look,
give us your take on it.
I think that when we listen and to what's been written and said, it seems that some people are using passion as an excuse for this behaviour. But he's a manager in the Premier League. He's a manager of a football team. He should set an example. Therefore, passion is part of the game, but also self-control. And for me, I've said very clearly in an article that I wrote for the Daily Telegraph that the authorities need to throw the book at him. Now, there's some difficulty in that because the referee gave him a yellow card, which frankly was insufficient. I mean, we have this great problem in the English game. I think we see it in other countries, but perhaps not as much. And that is managers, coaching staff refusing to remain in the technical area. And for every incident that the referee is giving out there on the field of play, it becomes a second sideshow for the fans. It's almost like winding the fans up and giving the impression that the referee, when he is making good decisions, is still wrong. Now, look, I think what sparked one of the incidents off was the fact that Mo Salah on the attack was fouled. In my opinion, Liverpool should have had a free kick. It was awarded for some unknown reason by Paul Tierney the other way. I just couldn't get that. So the referee on this occasion made a mistake. But that isn't the catalyst that draws out the manager to rant and rave. And neither should the manager run towards the fourth official, which you've explained very succinctly. I was disappointed because, frankly, a yellow card is insufficient. But then this referee and the fourth official are not alone. We've seen the manager of Arsenal. We've seen other managers in the Premier League behaving outside the laws of the game, and we're seeing referees not taking action. I think that they're misguided. I think that what they want to do is concentrate on what is happening on the field of play, and this is this secondary show by the managers. Almost say, if I ignore it, it'll not happen. I'll leave away from it. So for me, I think it's tarnishing the image of the Premier League. I think Richard Masters, the CEO of the Premier League, just like Richard Scudamore when he was the CEO of the Premier League, they have a responsibility for the image of the game in relation to the Premier League and how it's portrayed around the field of play. So for me, Klopp should have not got a yellow, he should have got a red. And then, of course, it was compounded in a post-match interview on Sky. I don't know if you listened to it, but
no, I didn't hear that. And
I think this was even more of a problem, and that was that he made reference to the fact that the approach by the referee was unacceptable. He made an innuendo. He also referred to the past and the relationship with this referee, and he's indicating that he's got a history with this particular referee. Well, first of all, that is going to be investigated by the Football Association, and it's also already been acted upon by the PGMOL, who've come out and said very clearly that they've listened in to the recording of the referee in this particular game, and they see nothing that he has done that is unacceptable. So there now lies a second story. For me...
Yes, I'm just thinking, Keith, what is he's suggesting that the referee said something untoward? Is that what Klopp is saying?
Yeah. Klopp made that reference in an interview with post-match with Sky. The Sky interviewer made it very clear, look, you have said something. Will you enlighten us on the story? And it wasn't forthcoming, and he disappeared. The reality is that is a concern. That is an additional concern on top of what we've seen. Yeah. And it needs to be investigated. I think, secondly, when it all eventually is resolved, I think Howard Webb, the boss now of the referees in the Premier League, at the PGMOL, he should get Tierney, Klopp. I think Klopp should bring along Richard Bevan, the CEO of the League Managers Association, of which he's a member, and probably a member of the PGMOL board of directors should be in attendance. I think they need to get this sorted, because you cannot have a club preempting a referee's performance. Tierney will go back to that club. He's had, he's the most appointed referee this season of Premier League games. He's had 28 Premier League games. Wow. So 28. That's the highest. Yeah. In the middle. Of course, he has other games, but that's not counted. That is purely refereeing appointments in the Premier League. Michael Oliver has had 27. And I regard Oliver as our best referee, albeit, but there were incidents in the game that really concerned me in this particular game. There was a high foot by Jota. It was well above waist height. Mm-hmm. It made contact and cut the head of his opponent.
Yeah. Can we just come back to that, Keith, in a moment? The interim manager of Spurs, just so people don't think that we're coming down on Jurgen Klopp, who's not an angel when it comes to this kind of thing, and neither are his colleagues in the Premier League. But Ryan Mason, am I getting that right? The interim, he also ran at the fourth official, John Brooks. Now, the solution to this problem, I feel, would be that as soon as a manager steps outside the technical area, he gets spoken to, and if he does it again, he gets a caution. Because as you rightly said earlier, they're leaving the technical area at will. I mean, Jose Mourinho, as we've mentioned in the past, used to run halfway down the touchline. But now they're just wandering out, and if they're put back, on the back, and they're out again. Arteta from Arsenal is the same. Lots of them are doing the same thing. How do we solve that problem? Because when Klopp verbally assaulted John Brooks, the fourth official, who kept us cool and really fair play to him, but Klopp really ran out of his technical area to verbally assault this referee. Surely the referees are at fault.
Yes.
And I don't want people to think that we're coming down on managers and players. You and I together, collectively, we do criticize the match officials when they're not doing their job. And that's correct as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
They need to put a stop to this issue of coaches leaving the technical area at will whenever they want to. Would that not? They could have shouted at him, of course. Klopp could have shouted at him, but at least it wouldn't be in his ear and in his face.
Yeah, I'm quite clear, and the laws of the game cover this very clearly. I think that's why they mark a specific area and the size of that area.
Because what's the point? Did we do away with it altogether? There's no point in having it.
Well, I mean, look, there are too many laws that are cleverly written that have been operated pretty successfully. Why is it that the Premier League referees are not applying what I think is basic law? The position of the throw-in. Look, we're not to a couple of feet, but we are when it gets 3 or 4 yards.
Oh, they're stealing 10 yards.
We've got the nonsense of time wasting now. Every game there's a water break, unofficial water break. I noticed Arsenal did it this week again. Player goes down, he looks around, and then he starts rubbing his head, and they go through a procedure. We've talked about that in the past. So I think that Howard Webb needs to look at the season ahead, the new season. I think he needs to have his referees very clearly briefed what is acceptable, what is not. He will meet the managers of all the teams in the Premier League and, of course, the Football League and the Championship, where he's also in charge of match officials. He will meet every manager pre-season, and I think he needs to spell it out very carefully. I think the competition also needs to spell it out in relation to the technical area. I think there are other matters that really concern me. I think there's time delaying tactics that are going on. Tactics is part of the game. Time wasting is not. It's against the laws. So I just think that it's sloppy officiating.
How is the line, though, Keith, between tactical and time wasting?
Correct. And I think there is perhaps that, as you've already alluded to, that step out of the line by error. Okay, fine. The verbal warning. But there's no verbal warning. There's no management. There's no moving towards the manager. It's almost like, I don't want confrontation. It's a sideshow that I don't want to get involved in, but not getting involved and, being preemptive in these things. A good referees are proactive referees, not reactive referees. And therefore, I think it's quite simple for the fourth official, when he enters the technical area almost before the game, he actually says, "My name's John. How do you want to be referred to? That's your bit. Stay inside it. If you do that, I'll be happy. If you come out, I'm going to tell you. And if you come out a second time, I'm going to do you." And I let's be plain speaking about these things. Let's just manage the game as a match official. Have the courage to apply the laws.
I can hear people screaming out there. Why aren't they doing it? Why aren't the referees enforcing the laws of the game? Are they afraid? Are they worried about what the commentators and the pundits are going to say? Why aren't they doing their job?
I don't think they should be worried about. I mean, in fairness, I've done a couple of 3 interviews today, and with ex-players, and they're all in agreement. They're all in agreement that Klopp on this occasion went too far. But I'm seeing it every other week. So it's down to, I think, let's not use the Premier League as an excuse or managers' behaviour as an excuse. If referees don't apply the laws of the game in a proactive manner, then the laws themselves, the application of the laws, will drift, and will become lazy. And I think, when we actually get down to this, you and I refereed without a technical area. There was a guy with a bucket and a sponge. And,
sometimes without linesmen or assistant referees as well.
Exactly. But and there was a working agreement, and I think it's not difficult to have a working agreement at the Premier League level with professional referees and these managers. But what we have to do is we have to go through a bit of hardship. That hardship is to win back the control of these games, to win back and apply the laws in terms of the technical area. Fans pay to watch players perform, not referee. They don't want to see this sideshow, which has become a little bit silly.
Yeah, and on the Klopp thing, Martin Finlay says it seems a common occurrence in modern football. How are the players supposed to react towards officials when their coach behaves like that? He's referring to Klopp.
Spot on.
Richard Bayard says, I hope you will please explain. Jota. Yeah, okay. We'll go on to the Jota incident. Please explain how Jota stayed on the field after kicking an opponent in the head.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll explain it. But then there's Izaz Smith said it should have been a red card because it was a dangerous tackle. And then he mentions Skip's reckless tackle on Diaz in the first half. David Brown from Australia says, the way I see it, a caution is a fair sanction according to the current interpretation because it would have been considered as reckless and not as excessive force. Add that to the fact that the Spurs player also dropped his head down. We'll just cover that in a moment. And Clinton Mark van Boemen says, and we shouldn't forget Haaland's bit of ballet, which was written off as passion, hunger, and commitment against Anderson in the Palace match. There's absolutely no comparison in the PGMOL. They're just some of the comments, and please keep your comments coming in.
Yeah, sure.
Jota's high foot, Keith.
Yes.
They want to know why it wasn't a red card.
I immediately went red. There was no hesitation from me when I saw that incident. It's red simply because it endangers the safety of his opponent, and that is a red card offence. The boot was high, right? It was well above waist high. There was the player moving down slightly towards, but not in the sense of. And I believe there was also, with studs showing, there was an opportunity with that player facing his opponent to withdraw. He has a duty of care. So again,
would you not consider that then dangerous play, foot up?
For me, I believe that when we look at the laws in terms of reckless and endangering the safety of an opponent, I put this in the category of endangering the safety of an opponent. He's got a flat boot. He's got it well above what would be the normal level of play for a player in terms of the height. I don't think there was sufficient bend in the player going for the ball, and of course he cut his head. So I think I've been somewhat pleased because in all the writings that I've listened, the pundits on television, the articles in the newspapers, former players are very clear that this is a red card offence and it should have been applied as a red. There's no one coming out and defending that situation. So I'm sticking with a red. I'm sticking with a red on the basis that he has endangered the safety of an opponent. And, I think that we have to try to outlaw these when we actually look at the, it's this week when the Football Association put out a very clear message to grassroots football clubs about concussion. They made it very clear. And I think, praise to the FA in England for actually saying at grassroots level, when a player has sustained an head injury, we would prefer you not to allow that player to continue. And I think that this is all wrapped up in this whole aspect. There's been a number of incidents of this type this year that's gone away. And we look, there wasn't even a card given. In fact, there was no sanction. And therefore, in that sense, I'm very critical of the match referee.
So the old principle, I don't know with you guys over there, but certainly with us here, the principle of foot up or head down was the waistline.
Yeah.
The foot shouldn't be above the head, above the waistline. And if it was dangerous play. And the head shouldn't be down below the waistline. That's also dangerous play. So that's the principle sort of we went on. But this was well up.
And I think that's a good guide for referees that listen in.
Yeah.
But in the same game, there was a challenge by a player that eventually scored that was involved in the winning goal, and that was one of these challenges where he played the ball and then the man, and the foot was in contact with the lower part of the leg. It's one of these again where people are saying it's reckless, yellow card. I think that on balance, looking at it, I think that was also a red card offence. And a number of people also agree that red card should have been. So stick with this endangering the safety of an opponent as the criteria for these types of challenges, because players have to recognise that they have a duty of care towards an opponent. And clearly these players have not.
Now, in the same game, there was what appeared to be a handball by, was it Konate of Liverpool, where he went down, the ball hit his hand. So where did I see somebody commented about a handball?
Well, whilst you're looking for that, we might as well throw a coin in the air on handball offences.
Well, yeah, I can't quite find it now, but I've seen handball. My goodness gracious. Why don't they go back to the old way of the movement of the hand towards the ball, hand or arm towards the ball, not the ball, and just leave it at that. Yeah. Now it's making the body bigger and you're on the ground. And I mean, heavens above.
The one thing that I give as a guide to referees, and that is, many years ago, I brought in a scientist dealing with body mechanics, and because I wanted to see whether, in fact, that would help the decision-making process. It was quite interesting because what he said was this: where a player falls to the ground with a degree of surprise, he's lost balance and he goes to ground. So if I want you to think about falling to the ground, the first thing that you do is you put your hand out and you're expecting to land on the palm of your hand, not on your elbow. And invariably, you'll not go down sideways, you'll go down straight. So for me, let's look at the action of the player. He's gone slightly horizontal, and then he's put his arm down. And in doing that, he's not done it. He's not falling. He's actually done it, in my opinion, to actually stop the ball going past him. So we have this difficulty for referees. I feel for modern referees in this on this particular law, because I mean, I talk as you do to other referees, and the confusion that exists, because you can get handball decisions in a room, and you'll not get referees to agree on it.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
And that's the sadness. You want a 90-10 out of 100 referees, 90 agree, on a particular incident, that's handball, it's not handball. What you don't want is a 50-50, 60-40, and that's what we're finding. We seem to have lost this question of distance, this shots. We seem to have lost this hits the head, hits the arm, and we're getting appeals. And I think generally, life is very difficult for referees on handball offences. Yeah. Whereas in my day and yours, we used to look for that movement towards the ball by the hand, and we just used deliberate as the means of the guideline for us to say that's a handball offence.
It's very difficult today, Keith. You're trying to train referees with all the new interpretations, and one referee will give it and one won't. And we know it's a subjective decision, and we know that in the opinion of the referee, which is in Law 5, that will remain there because it has to be in his opinion. Yeah. But it must be extremely difficult. The old way of the movement of the hand towards the ball towards the hand was clear cut. It was black and white. And now it's making the body bigger. And oh my goodness. Well, it must be very difficult for young up and coming referees to get it right.
Yeah. I think that what further complicates it, obviously at the elite level, is VAR. Because, the audience, whichever way they persuade it, it's a handball, it's not a handball, the audience expect that decision. And when a referee doesn't give it, because that subjective decision it's not enough to convince me that it's a handball offence, they're all then looking for the VAR, and the VAR is carrying the can. And I think that into that mix, we've got, as I've explained before, we've got a number of lazy referees who are over-relying on VAR to pull them out the mire. One thing, because we talk negative, I just want to say one thing about a positive aspect of a refereeing performance this weekend. I've been very critical of Simon Hooper as a referee, mainly because of his movement on the field of play. His body shape isn't the most athletic. This weekend, he took up some really, really good positions. He read the game well, and he gave a very tight call very accurately to award a penalty kick in his game. And I think, putting a little bit of balance, we've got a referee who I thought last year probably should not have been retained, in my opinion, mainly because of his movement on the field of play. He's done something about it, and I think he's now gaining a little reward. The other referee who's showing a little bit more confidence now is David Koo, who's also a referee that I've criticised in the past, but again, seems to now to be more confident in his approach to refereeing.
Kate, as always, thank you very much for joining us tonight. We'll do it all again next week, and thank all of you for your comments. Please keep them coming in. I will answer them all. And until next Monday, 8 o'clock, we'll see you all again. Till then, good night and God bless.
Good night. Take care.